Hey, you guys, I'm going to get my camera adjusted here. So we are good for math today. So today we're going to continue on with the second half of chapter 2. And today we're going to talk about the idea of a ratio. And a ratio is a comparison of two numbers. Okay, and so let's get our interactive notebook all set up for that. So I am here at my interactive notebook packet. We still have that little multiply and divide fractions thing, and that's okay. We're going to use this page. Notice that these look exactly the same. We only need one of them. So let's cut that in half. And then we're going to, again, notice this is the same. And we're going to cut that in half. Okay. And that's the only two things we need out of here today. These are our two little handouts that are going to help us learn about ratios. So I'm going to turn now in my interactive notebook. So there's multiplying, dividing, reciprocals. And then here, I am going to glue in these two pages, ratio on the left and a little activity on the right. So feel free to pause the video, get your pages all cut, glued, and in your notebook. And we'll get started talking about what a ratio is. Give me just a moment. Okay, so let's go ahead then and focus in on this page here. Kind of zoom in a little bit if we can. The camera doesn't zoom in the best in the world, but it'll work. All right, so it says a ratio is a relationship between quantities. You can use ratios to compare one part to another part or to compare the part to the whole. And a ratio is what's called a multiplicative comparison, which basically just means we can write equal ratios just like we did equal fractions by using multiplication. Fancy word, but it doesn't really mean anything that fancy. So again, there are three types of ratios: part to part, part to whole, whole to part. And we can write a ratio in three different ways. We can write it using this colon, and that's how you're going to see me write it a lot of the times. You can write ratios in fractions, A to B, and then the word form here, A to B. And no matter how you write it, this is how you read a ratio, A to B. So we're just going to do, it shows the comparison of numbers. So let's take a look at these pencils and sunshines here. You'll notice that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 total objects, and we have 2 suns and 4 pencils. So we're going to try to write the ratio for these comparisons here and see if this makes sense to you. So it says write the ratio of suns to pencils in word form. So word form uses that little word to. We have to make sure we're going in the right order. Suns to pencils. So there are 2 suns to 1, 2, 3, 4 pencils. So we say the ratio of suns to pencils is 2 to 4. And that's the word form. Next it says write the ratio of pencils to total objects. And it wants us to use the colon form. So pencils, there are 4. And we're going to use the colon. And it says to the total number of objects, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going to say 4 to 6 is the ratio of pencils to the total. So you see, we're just writing comparisons of numbers. We're just showing the number of one thing compared to either another part or to the whole group. Last one says write the ratio of pencils to suns in fraction form. So pencils is 4 and suns is 2. And pencils comes first. This is pencils, 2 suns. So 4 to 2. And that looks like an improper fraction, but it's just ratio, 4 to 2. Okay? Now we could do a similar kind of thing if we had our class all together, we could kind of compare girls to boys. We're just going to do kind of a fake group right now just so you can kind of see how this would work. But similar kind of thing. Let's imagine that there were 16 kids in our class, and let's say that there were 6 girls and 10 boys. So I'm just totally making this up. If we were going to write the ratio of girls to boys, using the colon, I would say 6 to 10. Okay, and girls to boys is a part to part comparison. Part is girls, part is boys. We're not using that total anywhere. To do boys to girls, it would be the exact reverse of that, right? And so they're asking for fraction form. So boys is 10, girls is 6, so 10 to 6, and that is in fraction form. And again, that's just part to part. So all ratios are, you guys, is a comparison of amounts. And we've got different ways we can write them. Let's look at one of these totals. So girls to total in word form. So girls is 6 and the total is 16. So we would say 6 to 16. And that would be part to whole. Does that make sense to you? Okay. Try these last two on your own. Total to boys and total to girls. And you get to choose the kind of ratio you write. I'll do mine and then you do yours and then we'll compare. Okay. So both of those were whole to part because they both started with total. So the first one was 16 to 10, and the next one was 16 to 6. And I did a word form and a colon form, but you could do whatever you wanted to do there. Okay? So there's some more things at the bottom. We're going to skip those right now and go on into our journal work because I want you to see the kind of work that you're going to be doing. So all we did in our journal was kind of learn what a ratio is, which is just a relationship between two numbers, a little comparison. There are three ways to write it. Okay? So now if we go into our journal, so I'm going to leave that there, and we are going in to lesson 2-9 today, and I am on page 83. All right, and I'm going to skip around a little bit and then give you a few things to try. We are skipping the math message today. Our journal work, I kind of consider our math message, our interactive notebook work. So section 1 here is going to talk to you about equal ratios. All right, and so let's just do B here as a part together. So if one cat has 4 legs, 2 cats would have 8 legs, 5 cats would have 20 legs. This is just getting you to think about a comparison of ratios. If we were writing these in a ratio, that would be 1 to 4, 2 to 8, 5 to 20. And all 3 of those ratios are the same kind of comparison. So we just doubled it and then we times it by 5. Okay. I'm going to leave A, C, and D for you to try in a little bit. Number 3 is one I want us to look at together. So you'll notice that this says draw a picture or use tiles to solve the problem. Now this is a really good strategy. These ratio problems can sometimes get confusing to kids when they're trying to keep track of all the parts and the total. And so being able to draw it in a way that shows you exactly what's happening is sometimes super helpful. So let's do that. So it says that there are 16 tiles laid out on a table. So I'm going to lay that out. So there's 8. And there's another 8. So when it says tiles, I just use little rectangles, squares, some kind of shape to represent whatever it is. So it says there are 16 tiles laid out on the table. There they are. And they are all either shaded or white. And it says 6 out of every 8 are white. Now, if you think about that for a minute, 6 out of every 8 are white, which must mean that 2 out of every 8 are shaded. And kind of think about the rest of it. They're shaded or white. So if 6 out of the 8, so let's think about that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are white. That means these last 2 in this group of 8 must be shaded. And then we have another one. Here's another group of 8. 6 are white and 2 are shaded. So think about how that story went and how we drew that. Okay, so there were 16 tiles on a table. and it says 6 out of every 8 are white. You can also think about that. If 6 out of 8 are white, if we're going to double that, then 12 out of 16 would be white. And that's kind of, again, what our picture showed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So if 12 out of 16 are white, then we would know 4 out of 16 are shaded. All right? And how did I find my answer? I used my picture. Okay, so trying to just understand, and again, the whole was the 16. Part of them are white, part of them are shaded, and trying to make sure your ratios match that picture can help you see what's happening. Hopefully that makes some sense. All right, you're gonna try this a little bit more. And so all of this is just kind of comparison, comparison, comparison. So what I'd like you to do is on your own today, let's get a Post-it so we can make a little to-do list. So you're going to do some work on page 83, 84, and 85. Some of these are going to go super fast. So on page 83, I'd like you to finish number 1. Okay, let's make sure you can see what I'm talking about here. So on page 83, that's this page right here, you're going to finish number 1, which was parts A, B, and D. That's the only thing we didn't do there. On page 84, I'd like you to attempt all of those. And page 85, you don't have to worry about number 7, but we're going to do 5 and 6, and then 1 through 4. Okay? So this is what I'd like you to try on your own this morning, to try draw some of these ratios, and then we'll go over it when we get back together. That is your to-do list to practice ratios and comparisons and see what you can do. So page 83, number 1, page 84, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then page 85, you're going to do 5 and 6. Okay? So if you need to write that down, go ahead and then make a note of what it is I want you to do, and you can maybe just check mark them in your journal. Okay? All right. And I will see you at 9 o'clock.